Hello everyone, my name is Maciej Telszewski and it's my pleasure to update you on communication and coordination services provided by IOCCP, the Goose Biogeochemistry panel over the last 12 months or so. I update you on behalf of the whole project, but specifically on behalf of our coaches, Kim Curry and Masao Ishii. Masao and I will be present at the SCORE annual meeting this year to answer any questions you might have with regards to this presentation or otherwise. I would like to start by reminding you that we've met in person still last year in November, and the report from this meeting is available from our website. We've met for a couple of days, and we were lucky to be able to have a few guests during that time. And the major topics we covered at the time were Goose 2030 strategy and implementation plan, which will be published, the implementation plan, very soon. That includes biogeochemistry, Goose Biogeochemistry action plan, which is one of the requirements, recommendations impressed upon us by the sponsors review. We've discussed sponsors review in great detail and in depth during that meeting, and you will be able to receive the response, IOCCP response to this review by the time you meet in a couple of weeks. We've spent time discussing post-Ocean Ops 19 process, and by that we mean details of initial and longer-term implementation of several recommendations from the community white papers, in which many IOCCP SSG experts were involved. We spent time discussing biogeochemical observations and models, the integration, as it's requested by several stakeholders in the community. And we spent time drafting roles and responsibilities IOCCP might play and have in that arena. We spent time following up on the ocean best practices system development and our role therein. And as usual, we've had reports from and discussed proposed action for IOCCP themes. We'll meet again in November this year. This time it will be a virtual meeting, and FYI, we hope to keep November as the annual meeting month for IOCCP into the future. Considering, I would like to start our update from the surface ocean observations for biogeochemistry. Considering the global coordination of sustained observations for biogeochemical EOVs, we are dealing with different levels of maturity depending on the aspect of these observations. For inorganic carbon made by ships of opportunity, so underway observations, and selected moorings, the data are rigorously quality controlled and released through annual updates to the Sopot synthesis product. So that's a very high level of maturity. However, the observing network itself requires coordination efforts, and that's one of the IOCCP roles in the past 12 months and into the future. As with most elements of IOCCP coordination efforts, several IOCCP SSG experts were involved in development of a decadal plan for the surface ocean observing network. In this case, 5 current IOCCP members were involved in putting the Ocean Ops 19 community white paper together. In the first year since Ocean Ops 19, we have started working with the SOCONET community to start implementing specific recommendations. And that have several aspects. One is the data, contributing data to databases, namely Takahashi dataset and SOCAT, assessing quality of parameters taken in conjunction with surface water CO2. That's important for many partners out there. Collaborations, and the specific collaboration we keep on developing is Global Atmospheric Watch. And that's because there is a demand for atmospheric CO2 observations taken from the ships. However, the quality of these observations needs to be higher than currently possible, and therefore that's an exciting part of our work where the technical readiness level is being increased in terms of hardware, but also protocol. We worked with partners, in terms of new platforms and lines. One of the exciting developments is the new surface ocean observing vessel going to Galapagos with PCO2 observations. And in terms of the platforms, definitely discussions with Saildron were the highlight of the past 12 months. Finally, we spent time on preparing the instrument intercomparison experiment, which will be the fifth in the history of surface ocean observations for biogeochemistry. And this one will hopefully take place in Belgium, in Ostend, hosted by Flanders Marine Institute in June, July next year. In terms of ocean interior biogeochemical observations coordinations, we have two elements, GoShip and biogeochemical Argo. Many of the BGC EOVs are being measured along with the physical ones during the GoShip repeat hydrographic surveys, and data are regularly included in annual releases of GLODAP data synthesis product, which I will refer to in a second. We also have good capacity to track which biogeochemical parameters are being measured where by the BGC Argo profiling floats. Both these networks are pretty mature in terms of organization and act independently when it comes to design, protocols, and fundraising. Our role is to make connections across the BGC observations made by these networks, and also to assist with development and implementation of required technical workshops and discussions. We are also very happy to see a concerted effort around including relevant biology and ecosystem parameters in these observing campaigns. And this is being done under the leadership of SCORE Working Group 154, POPs, and also by individual researchers publishing the requirements by the community. We are happy to see our experts from the SSG involved in these efforts, and therefore we hope to be able to assist as much as possible into the future. So these observations all hopefully will be available from one Marine Biogeochemistry Global Data Assembly Center. That's a development that we are involved in for 5 years now, and we hope that we are closer than ever to actually making it a reality. There was a white paper again with Benjamin File, our expert, involved in its content, but also there's a lot of effort around the structure, connections between several stakeholders in this whole effort with individual agendas, and it's important to make sure that all these parties see a better an added value of contributing to this GDAC for marine biogeochemistry. There is some funding already secured at the US side and European side because these are to be the two nodes of the GDAC to start hosting and sharing the data. And some institutional legal work was laid to make sure that those two centers are part of the global IOD effort. And we will continue reporting on the development. The data, once it's available, is being made into the data synthesis products and in the inorganic carbon. We have two of those, GLODAP, which is the ocean interior data. And in 2020, we helped release the latest version of GLODAP, GLODAP V2 2020, with additional 100 cruises included, and time coverage extended to 2019 for the first time. Discrete FCO2 values were included in the merged product, which increases the usability of GLODAP. And now we have a total of almost 1,000 cruises with more than 1 million water samples in it. Also, SOCAT version 2020 was released in June. SOCAT has now more than 28 million quality controlled FCO2 data points with accuracy of less than 5 microatmospheres. And this accuracy allows for all types of studies. And we have additional 2 million points with accuracy of between 5 and 10 microatmospheres. And this data is useful for many types of studies, but not for all of them. It's important to remind everyone that SOCAT still does not have any sustained funding. So all this work for the last 15 years by now is being done with research money from all various sources and places. In terms of time series, developing a new data synthesis product is the goal we are trying to go towards. Björn Fiedler, IOCCP expert responsible for time series efforts, was involved in the community white paper, which you can see here on the right-hand side, as well as a couple of international scoping workshops in the past year. The white paper strongly states that the ocean time series programs in general continue to face many challenges, some of which significantly hinder the intended operation and prevent the operators from expanding the capacity by, for example, adding inorganic carbon to existing biological time series. The challenges include the unavailability of sustained funding, varying levels of access to analytical facilities, instrumentation, and technology, which in a sense is funding too, lack of access to training on standardized sampling and analytical protocols, so that's the capacity building gap. And the fourth challenge that was listed in this white paper is that the multiple disconnected databases and interfaces for accessing time series data exist without a universal set of data and metadata reporting guidelines. So data management and data synthesis product is one of the key challenges. And therefore, IOCCP, in collaboration with our partners, specifically ERC project, focuses on developing such a time series data synthesis product. And the objectives are to create a platform-focused time series data product on the whole of biogeochemistry. That would be the ambition, but starting with inorganic carbon. Develop data quality control routines wherever needed, and develop pilot data synthesis product centered around Atlantic, which will be closely linked to GLODAP efforts. And by doing this pilot, we hope to show that it's possible, for one, and two, that the utility of this data is much higher than data from individual time series. The first workshop will be held in November 2020, where we will show some of the work that's been already done and draft the next steps for the next year or two, when we hope to be able to show the pilot project. In terms of phenomena-based data products, we have two. One is the Ocean Acidification, and that's led mainly by GOAON, Global Ocean Acidification Observing Network. And 4 of IOCCP SSG members are on the GOAON Executive Council. Therefore, it's sort of, we have double roles there, but as IOCCP, we provide access and coordination in terms of the observations being made. The portal itself already has visualization of OA relevant data. Metadata is available for OA relevant observations. You can filter by platform, by region, by EOV, etc. And also there is contact to data providers because it's a data portal, so it does not provide data itself. And again, open ocean coverage is reasonable and is getting better. Challenge is the coastal data, and that's across board in this presentation. In oxygen, we are in much earlier phase, the scoping and design phase, really, but there is a great need for oxygen data from all relevant platforms. We are part of the joint effort with Global Ocean Oxygen Network, NOAA and CEI, GLODAP, and IOC. Like in Go On, it will be oriented around one phenomenon, deoxygenation in this case. We've had a workshop, scoping workshop in Sopot in IOCCP headquarters in November last year. And the result of this workshop is a scoping white paper describing the steps and needs for this synthesis product to happen. And it's a very near submission. We've already worked on the second workshop, which will be held in November 2020, this time virtually, obviously. Other ocean acidification activities that we are involved in are listed here, and one of them being the development of the community white paper. Again, however, I want to briefly highlight another activity, which is the Ocean Acidification Data Quality Control online package. Instead of training people with the quality control procedures during technical workshops, which cannot happen this year, and probably next year that will be limited too, we decided to put our resources, time, and effort into the community developed best practices for quality control of ocean acidification chemical data, namely pH, total alkalinity, PCO2, and DIC. We hope to bring together a combination of different types of resources in this package: video, slideshows, written material, and interactive decision trees, which is often very important. The whole package is going to be fully accessible online to aid in learning and putting into practice data quality control techniques, but resources will be available for download to enable offline use for researchers from regions where access to internet is not reliable. Our ambition is also to translate this package into several languages. And another point about ocean acidification is that IOCCP was involved in several side meetings around the International Symposium on the Ocean in the High CO2 World, which was supposed to be held in September this year and is postponed to 2021. At the moment, the communication with local hosts is very scarce, so we are not certain whether this can be confirmed. We have a plan B, which is holding virtually, but hopefully we'll be able to hold the meeting in Peru. As for oxygen, we continue our effort around voice, the variability in the oxycline and its impacts on the ecosystem. The project was developed between 2017 and 2019. The scoping phase ended by publishing the community white paper that describes the implementation needs, protocols, and milestones. And now we are hoping to start this implementation phase. We are in discussions with several stakeholders, local stakeholders. These discussions are led by colleagues named on this slide. As you can see, we've identified several key partners around the largest oxygen minimum zones globally, but also stakeholders like Goose and others who we hope will be able to help us finance such an implementation over the next decade. We continue our work around the ocean best practices, and that's something that IOCCP has always been involved in. Now we integrate with colleagues from other disciplines within the ocean best practices system. And the matrix that you see on the left-hand side is what we hope to fill with references to specific best practices. And the matrix shows all the essential ocean variables for biogeochemistry, or sub-variables if there is a need for dividing a variable into sub-variables. And each such variable is described in terms of procedure of making a measurement, so its deployment, retrieval, calibration, reference materials, primary quality control, etc. And also the best practice is usually different for each of these EOVs and procedures across observing networks or observing platforms like GoShip and Repeat Hydro, underway observations, floats, gliders, etc. So we continue to collate and compile the best practice documents that exist, but in many cases, and especially with the new technology emerging, and there is a need to develop those best practices, and it's our focus to make sure that these best practices are being developed and published so that colleagues coming new to this game can use the existing best practices. We also technically train young scientists around the suite of biogeochemical sensors. Our last training took place in 2019. And a couple of points around that edition is that for the first time, all the course materials, including videos of lectures and hands-on practicals, are freely and openly available online via IOC's Ocean Teacher Global Academy, and you can access that from IOCCP page. And also by tracking graduates from the 2019 edition, we can say that many of the course graduates are about or just have already started their contribution to key observing networks such as BGCR, Go Gliders, Ocean Sites, GoShip, and more. And therefore, it shows that the effort we put into developing this technical training pays back by having a wider network of observers. We hope to keep providing this training, and actually we found co-sponsor for the next edition that was supposed to happen in 2021. However, due to the pandemic situation and related travel restrictions, we decided to postpone to 2022, unfortunately. We are involved in developing the new science plan on integrated ocean carbon research. There are 6 partners there, all listed on the bottom of the slide here on the figure. And in the last couple of years, there was work focused on developing a report, a science plan of sorts, status summary and vision of ocean carbon research. So there's 40 co-authors of this document from 15 countries, representing all 6 convening organizations, but also several institutions. There's 50 pages of planning and recommendations published by the end of this year. And there are several recommendations that are more detailed than this slide can show. I just wanted to highlight 3 of them. First, to integrate models and observations. That's something that IOCCP is keen on increasing its capacity in. Boundary regions, land-ocean continuum, and Earth-sea interface, both critical with our efforts into the future. And we are also very happy to see the changing or increasing role of biology in the ocean carbon cycle. The role stays the same, it's just our perception of it is higher than it was before, and that's very beneficial. So in terms of this boundary of the Earth-sea interface, we are part of the effort led by Megan Cronin that started with her combining recommendations from several dozen Ocean Ops 19 white papers to enhance a specific element of ocean observing system across disciplines, and that's the Earth-sea interaction. She put together a group of people with a wide scope Earth-sea Flux task team and we hope that we'll be able to continue this work and develop protocols allowing the integration across disciplines. In our case, carbon dioxide deoxygenation identification are the key phenomena we want to make sure are better tracked. However, the detailed work will be held across biology and ecosystem community and biogeochemistry community, as well as the physics community and biogeochemistry community. And these interfaces are very important in the context of this work, but it will benefit our other efforts of IOCCP. The final slide, beyond what I've discussed on previous 12 or 15 slides, I just want to highlight that IOCCP will focus its coordination efforts to support technical readiness level increase for particulate matter essential ocean variable, and that will be led by Emmanuel Boss, the new SSG member. We'll focus on strengthening the in situ and modeling interface, recognizing that biogeochemistry is a new frontier in operational oceanography and hence provides critical information to our community. That will be led by our new SSG member from China, Fei Chai, strengthening the in situ and remote sensing interface for biogeochemical and related biological EOVs and phenomena. Again, remote sensing in biogeochemistry is more than just ocean color, and we hope that Emmanuel and Fei, using their past experiences, will be able to lead IOCCP and help the community coordinate their efforts to connect in situ and remote sensing observations. We want to strengthen links between the instrument and sensor providers, developers, and users. And that we want to do around the technical capacity development as a central avenue for us, which is a unique niche occupied by IOCCP within the Ocean Biogeochemistry coordination. And finally, knowledge of coastal observations remains fragmented and difficult to piece together on the global scale. It's well mapped in specific regions like Europe by EuroGOOS, US by IOS, and Australia by IMOS, or for selected phenomena like ocean acidification via GOON. But overall, globally, there is a lot of work to be done to integrate coastal observing systems in terms of observations, data management, data synthesis, product development, best practices, technical capacity building, and more, in order to allow utilization of these critical observations for applications broadly categorized as operational services in ocean health. That will be one of IOCCP's targets in the near future, and that's also a target for the whole of GOOS to focus. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. If you have more questions, please go to our website, follow us on Twitter, send us email, and I hope to be able to discuss issues with you during the SCOL annual meeting. Thank you very much.